Welcome back to J-Dog Has a Truck. We are doing some very important works here.
Very! Oh my gosh. What is next on the agenda? Power steering. Putting in a key switch starter from Vintage Power Wagons. Not terribly complicated. The old starter has 2 bolt holes. The new one has 3. Don't let that mess you up. It's supposed to fit on all of the 230 engines, as long as the pinion size is correct, and looks like mine is. It is slightly longer than the original, so clearance is not much clearance. I mean, it is right there up against that oil, the high pressure oil line. It is right there, but I did get it in. So now gonna hook up the electric, and we are successful. I also got a new smaller battery, so I can adjust my alternator, get the belt tight. So wire from ignition switch, ground, and of course battery and starter. Everything fits just barely. How about that? So we're going to put power steering on here. Up here is a bracket for the pump, which will reside right here. This steering gear box has to go. We have to cut steering column right about there, and there will be a universal joint fit in here, so we got to cut to fit. This bracket here goes down in here, replacing that, or mounting this, mounting the new gearbox. Idler arm we keep, drag link we keep, I believe the bolts we keep. So, yeah, the whole steering column has to come out. The horn button, original horn button, unfortunately we cannot use. So we got to figure out something maybe on the dash or something like that for that. So, gotta, as you can see, we've started taking fender off, sheet metal, stuff like that. But probably have to take the battery tray out. I don't know if anything else has to come out, but yeah, it's time to start tearing things apart. And of course, we have to drain the antifreeze again. Okay, here comes the scary part, the can't turn back part. And there we have it. That's what the instructions said. The master cylinder is in the way. Might have to get that loose. Nope, it was steel brake line underneath there. So, there we are in all its leaky glory. This is going to be an interesting issue here because that bracket has to fit in there. We're all fuel line, brake line, electrical cables. So gonna have to move some stuff, unfortunately. Okay, update. Got the frame all cleaned up. And it looks like you have to take off the original master cylinder and move some things around before you can get the bracket in there. That looks like that's going to fit. Here's the included little template. You line this up with the center of this hole, and that is what you're supposed to grind out of there. So, time for some grinding. Well, this is becoming an interesting project. I got a lot of pieces that it's hard to figure out how to put them together, what order to put them together. I have the master cylinder in there installed, all the lines done, and I think, well, I had to grind a little bit more off the frame. I think I can get the steering box back in. However, one conundrum, we have this bumper here that goes right there, but there's supposed to be nuts on the other side of that. Well, how do you get those nuts when, number one, the steering box is in and or the splash pan is in? So, lazy man that I am, I decided to weld them in. Yeah, it's ugly. I did it almost completely blind, but hopefully they're stuck in there well enough they will stay. All right, making the steering box fit in when you're still using the original master cylinder is a little challenging, and you can see all the grinding that I've done so far, and also this was too tall, so I went to that, and I'm not using a split washer. I just used some Loctite on there. Grinding it down so the master cylinder will fit in here, and this is where the output tube for the brake fluid comes out. So hopefully that should be enough. I can actually install that. So getting ready to put all this back together, and notice everything clears here. This mount for this union here for the brake fluid, I had to move about 3/4 of an inch that direction, and just bending a few things around. Yeah, it's time to put things back together. Okay, so hopefully I can get in here. To mount the power steering pump, you got to take the head bolts, 3 head bolts out, and they give you a stud. So I'm going to thread the stud in, put some RTV down on the bottom here because you're going through some water passages. Get it snugged down. The final torque is going to be on the top here to the top nut. So it'll go through like that. Okay, so I got the power steering pump temporarily mounted with a couple of screws. We've got an issue that's kind of interfering with the bottom screw, mounting screw. So I've got to do some modifications. So aligning up all the belt drives is a little tricky. I would say the pump is pretty much fixed. You've got just a little bit of wobble this way and that way, and obviously make sure it's lined up as well as you can there. Next is this alternator. Without the bracket on, I had to open up these holes a little bit so it would slip around a little bit, then get that lined up. Then next, it's going to be this, which it looks ugly right now, but that has to line up So let me see if I can get this on and make sure we're good. All right, that belt is pretty darn straight. I'm not sure I could get it any better. We have some fan interference which we have to deal with. I'm going to take this off, clean it up and paint it, make it look pretty. I had used some washers as spacers before for the fan. They weren't quite enough, so I decided to do something a little bit more permanent. These are nuts just JB welded in there. So hopefully everything will clear with that. All right, so we got this spacer installed. Had to use a little bit longer screws, no big deal. And we've got, it's kind of hard to see here, plenty of space, so it's not going to hit that pulley over there. It's nice and firm. Don't think it's going to go anywhere. I think it looks fine. And we got plenty of space in back of the radiator, so that's not a problem. And for the bolt that holds this on, goes through the water pump back in there. Make sure you goo it up with some black goo because it's going through a water jacket. All right, I think this much is pretty much finalized. I could get a buddy of mine to make that up out of, I don't know, billet or something, but that is strong as it possibly could be. Nothing interferes with anything else. So I'm going to call that good. And I believe in making things more stout than they need to be. This is a little bracket behind the alternator. So yeah, doesn't need to be there. I ran it and it's solid, but this is even more better solid. And I believe you can never have too many grounds. So what do you think? I made this to go between the alternator and the steering pump. Goes in the back. I taped off that right there because that's the ground connection, so get that mounted. So you have to cut a little bit of notch in the floor where the steering shaft comes through, so this will go on. So now you can put your steering wheel and shaft in, and they have to be shortened, so this can tell you how much you need to shorten it, and then you can put things together. I'll probably have to figure out a cleaner way of doing this. Maybe put a slice of rubber around this whole thing. Yeah, we'll see. I'm gonna cut about 4.5 inches or 4.25 inches off and shorten this steering shaft. Try to be conservative, so it's easier to cut off than to add some back in there. But put the steering wheel in there, and wherever it's comfortable for you, that's where you put it. Okay, so shorten the shaft, and the fit on here, I had to use a lot of sandpaper working that down, but you want the shaft to come to the end of this without interfering with the U-joint. So yeah, that's pretty much where that's going to be, and then you drill a hole through and put a bolt through, and that should secure it. And the outer shell cleaned and painted, get it lined up there, And it's going to, I don't think it'll go over the U-joint, so just cut it to, comes to the end. All right, so here's the steering column. This is spring loaded, so there should be enough play there. I've got to find something to fit inside of this to center it, because the shaft will be turning inside of that, turning this. So I don't want this flopping over like this. So maybe a piece of hose or something like that. I'll look around. So here's what I've come up with. Heater hose of some sort. I don't have enough hands to do this. And then put that on the end and get that mounted. I think that should be okay. Put a little grease in there. I think that'll take up the slack. Should be good. Okay, I got the steering column and steering wheel out. And like all these old trucks, cracks galore. I'm gonna try. This was, somebody else told me to do this. Mix up some JB Weld, fill in all the cracks, sand it, and then paint it black. So I'll let you know how that all works out. Does the JB Weld work? Well, so far, wait till it sets up, sand it down, and we'll see. I got to do the other side here. Got cracks on the other side, but yeah, so far it's working. All right, here's the results of the JB Weld sanding, painting, couple of coats of this, and a couple of coats of flat clear. Man, it feels really nice. I guess you could find an imperfection if you really wanted to, but like everything else, the more time you spend with it, sanding and working it out, the more perfect it's going to be. But man, this is way, way, way better than what it was. So hopefully it's going to be durable. Of course, the original is hard rubber, so hopefully that paint is going to cover it, protect it, and it'll stay that way. Okay, I could just assemble this the way it is and as par for the course have holes, ugly holes, and no, I'm not going to do that. Let's clean this up, make it look a little bit better. So I've got a piece of steel to kind of fill in the spots up there. A word about the firewall here. I need to at some point take the cab completely off the frame and cover up some of these holes, do it more permanently. Maybe next year, not right now. But this right now is where I'm going to start. I'm going to screw that in there. It's not going to be held in there by duct tape. And then I'll show you step two. All right, step two is going to be, I picked this up from, well, on eBay or something, JJ's rods, and I think this is going to work out nice to fill it in. However, I've got a little problem. This is sticking way too far out, and it's going to be rubbing against the rubber on this. So I think I got a fix for that. So if you remember from a previous episode of my classic tire, I've got this old bias ply tire that I've been cutting up. I used some of the tread for shims for the bed, and it worked just perfectly. So what I think I'm going to do is cut a circle, and it should put that off just far enough to where everything is going to clear, and it won't look terrible either. So what do you think for the first toss? Like I said, I'm gonna come back later and really redo the firewall and make it look pretty at that point. But this is gonna work. Also, this is a project to come.